My name is Helen Hai. I'm the CEO of Made in Africa initiative. I'm also the Goodwill Ambassador for UNIDO to promote industrialization in Africa. I'm very delighted to join this forum to host one of the sessions, which is Africa's industrialization transformation. Okay, starting talking about Africa, I would first start with, in the 1960s, there's a common consensus in the development community. Africa has a much better chance for economic transformation, and Asia is a hopeless continent. But in reality, what happened between 1950 to 2008 in the world, totally there's about 200 developing economies. In reality, there's only 2 economies moved from lower income to higher income. That is Taiwan and South Korea. China is likely to be the 3rd one. And out of those 200 developing economies, only 13 of them moved from middle income to higher income. Out of those 13, 8 of them are in Europe. The other 5 are the Asia 4 tigers, plus Japan. So in reality, in the past 60 years, in our human history, Asia made much better economic transformation, but most of the countries in Africa today are still trapped in poverty. So if you ask me to reimagine Africa, I would say it's a time Africa should really wake up to start the real economic transformation. And one of the things today in the sessions I talk about, there's a golden opportunity for Africa. Why? The GDP per capita in China in 1978 is only $154. At that time, which is less than 1/3 of the sub-Saharan African countries. In my generation in China, we witnessed the economic transformation miracle in China. At the same time, we witnessed 600 million people have been lifted out the international poverty line. So the GDP per capita in China in 2015 is 7,500. And according to China's own forecast, by 2025, China is going to double that. That means by 2025, China is going to become a high-income country. What does that mean for Africa? There's a golden opportunity. Why? After 30 years golden manufacturing, 85 million jobs are relocating out of China. In this round, if Africa can capture this golden opportunity, they can enjoy the same economic transformation like what Asia Tiger did and also China did. So this is something I'm very confident. Some African countries has already started taking this industrialization movement to start their economic transformation. I think in order for Africa to capture this golden opportunity, I would say there are 3 things. Number 1, it's very important to understand job creation, it is the key for poverty reduction. And secondly, to understand there's a fundamental secret for Asia's economic transformation because they capture the industrialization relocation, the golden opportunity in the 60s and 80s, which they were able to create millions of jobs for the people in the bottom of the pyramid, which is the jump start of the economic transformation. And today, if Africa want to do it, they need to start with a quick, successful examples, because a quick, successful examples will bring inspiration, leadership, confidence, and experience to the continent. That is actually how I came to the continent. Back in 2011, by the invitation from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, I went to set up a shoe factory in Ethiopia. At that time, nobody believed Ethiopia could become the manufacturing floor for the world. But it took me 3 months from design to investment to actual production from Ethiopia to the US market. In the following 6 months, I doubled the export revenue in Ethiopia in the shoe sector. By the end of year 1, I recruited 2,000 local workers. By the end of year 2, I recruited 4,000 local workers. And in 2013, after 2 years, I generated 4,000 jobs and being asked by the government become the first Chinese advisor to help them on industrialization. My first task is to help the government to do investment promotion for the first government-owned industrial park in Bole-Laming. It took us 3 months without any international advertisement to lease out all 22 factory units. 8 of them are built, 14 of them are still on the plan. Despite 5 years ago, the government took 5 years, a lot of effort, they couldn't find any investors. So a lot of people ask us, how did we do it with less than 3 months? The answer is very simple. Success brings success. We invited a potential investor in. I showed them the 4,000 jobs I created. Most importantly, I showed them the profit loss account and tell them how the money is being made. They just immediately signed the lease. And that success brought great confidence to the government and also World Bank to support Ethiopia's industrialization. So in 2013, it's the first time in the World Bank history they gave $200 million zero-interest free loan for the government to develop another 2 industrial zones. And the latest industrial zone we've been working with the government this year in Avasa Park is 100% for textile and garments, and it's going to generate 50,000 jobs and generate 1 billion export revenue. So it only took 6 years. Ethiopia, from nobody believing it's happening, now becoming the hottest destination for job relocation from China. And Ethiopia's success had a big snowballing effect in the Africa continent. 2 years ago, I set up the Made in Africa initiative, supported by the United Nations, and I'm also being invited by the president of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, which has set up the first garment factory in Rwanda. As you know, Rwanda is a small landlocked country. Through industrialization, we're taking cottons from Burundi, textiles from Uganda. So through industrialization, we are creating jobs, making Rwanda from a landlocked country to a land-connect country. Also, 2 years ago, I'm being invited by the president of Senegal to help them to set up the first industrial park in Dakar. Now I'm working with the government doing investment promotion. I'm confident thousands of jobs will be created in Ghana. So under the Made in Africa initiative, we are currently advising 8 Africa head of states on their industrialization strategy. So the thing I want to share with you is there's an industrialization movement has already started in this continent. For me, I'm very impressed, with this forum and also seeing the enthusiasm from, the young leaders, from this continent. They want to drive the action. So one thing I want to talk about, which is the last thing, is entrepreneurship. I studied my executive MBA from one of the best schools in INSEAD, in France. If you ask me to compare the European entrepreneurship I've learned and the Chinese entrepreneurship, I would say the following. If you have a tiger in front of you, what I've learned from the business school is you first get your laptop, study carefully the characteristic of the tiger, and then discuss with your colleagues how are you going to conquer the tiger. The problem is when you finish all those study, the tiger is gone. The Chinese entrepreneurship I've learned is very different. If they have a tiger in front of them, they jump on top of the tiger and they ride it. So I think it's time, for Africa to figure out what is the right entrepreneurship for them and how to drive from vision to action, dreams to reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really like that analogy.